I'm going to show you how I make those sparkly goldfishes. They start as a gather of clear Effetre glass on a fairly thick rod. I use 14 millimeter rods. You can get away with thinner rods, but it will take longer to get the right size gather, and it won't be quite as stable in the flame. I have prepared some goldstone frit sitting on a marver below. It's a fairly sizable frit and it's spread fairly densely. I'm cleaning out the gather, flattening it into a disc, pulling a little bit on this disc, and squeezing the rod too to give the future tail of the goldfish the right shape. I'm hitting just one side of the disc and the rod, collecting the goldstone frit, and here I missed a spot. So I reheated it and got a little more. Now I'm careful not to heat the actual goldstone frit in the flame. I'm only heating the other side. And with a thinner clear rod, I'm coating the frit side with a fairly thick coat. Just painting over the frit. The clear that I'm painting on is very hot, and that ensures there are no bubbles. Goldstone shines differently in the flame. So whenever I see a speck of exposed goldstone, I do go back and cover it with clear. Otherwise it will burn out and give nasty colors. Now I'm readying it for the coat of goldstone on the other side. Again, I'm heating the whole disc and the little portion of the rod it's attached to. This time it's pretty even coat. An interesting thing about goldstone is it's neither gold nor stone. It's actually glass with little specks of copper. Once all goldstone is clear, coated with clear, it's time for shaping. I'm heating one side and using a flat tool. You can use a butter knife. I am caressing the glass into a lollipop shape with thinned out edges. Again, making sure it's round and nicely shaped. Now that I have a nice lollipop shape, I'm gonna attach a new punty. This one is amber, and I'm attaching it right where the mouth of the fish is going to be. And the leftover amber will become the mouth. But for now, this is a punty. Now I'm heating the tail portion, and I'm mostly heating the lollipop, the disc of the lollipop, not the handle, because I would like to stretch some of that goldstone into the tail. If the tail turns out to be too clear, it's not going to be looking good. So I'm starting the stretch and trying to shape the stretch at the same time so that it looks like a continuation of the body. Fishes do not look very well if their tails look like they were attached afterwards or are substantially different. They are essentially a continuation of the body. So I'm stretching, and you can see the goldstone thread being pulled into the tail. And I'm actually going to lose a little bit of that goldstone thread, which is fine. It's going to be left on the clear punty. Carefully stretching and bending it upwards. So now you can see which side is going to be up on the fish and which side is going to be down. Heat management is very important with soft glass, so I'm reheating the whole piece frequently at this stage. This is a good time to apply the eyes. First, dots of white on both sides. And it's important to place them fairly precisely. A little bit above the mouth and a bit towards the back. Once the dots are placed, it is possible to correct the placement just a tiny bit by flattening them and pulling at the same time in the direction you want to move them. This probably moves them about third of a diameter of the dot. Black for the pupils of the eyes. And I'm using a very thin stringer for this because you need much less than you might think. Much less black than it seems even possible at the beginning. It spreads very well on top of white. Don't forget to heat the whole piece once in a while, or you will have problems with cracking. Now the eyes are done. I'm checking that they are symmetrical and look the same size. And now for the tail fins. The top of the tail gets the fin first, because the bottom one will be puntied up. I'm using my ribbed mashers to flatten that blob of glass, and then I stretch it up and back, and that gives it this distinct shape of a fin. Again, heat management, heating the bottom part of the tail and giving it a slightly bigger blob for the bottom part of the tail fin. Ribbed mashers. You can see the disc is a little bigger than the one we had on the top of the tail. And what I'm doing here is, again, I'm stretching it, I'm pulling it down and then back and back, and I'm leaving it on this rod to use it as a punty. Now I'm heating the front of the fish, and I'm concentrating the heat around the mouth, but I'm trying to heat as little of the punty rod as possible to leave very little of the amber glass on the front. As a matter of fact, I am going to reduce that amount a little bit because the mouth should be petite. Heating that amber blob, and I poke it with a flat tool. You can use your favorite knife. If you just poke it straight like this, the mouth turns out to be somewhat whimsical. Looks like almost a kissing mouth with very thick puffy lips. But if you want to achieve a more realistic fish effect, you can go side to side with your knife, and that spreads the glass on the sides of the fish and gives it a more realistic fish mouth. Time for the side fins. They're placed about 1/4 inch up from the bottom in the middle, flattened with my ribbed mashers, Roberto Donna has a very nice set of rib mashers. Now I'm pulling it down, up and back. This motion gives it a wave. The idea is not to have the pointy end sticking down from the fish because it might break later. It will be sitting on those fins. So I want the pointy ends to look somewhat up and back. The other side. Mash them. And when I'm heating the mashed fin, I'm heating it in the indirect flame. It bounces off the body and goes into the fin. I do not heat it directly or I will melt all the ribs from the masher, and it won't look like a fish fin anymore. Now is a good time to make sure those two fins are the same size. Soften them a little bit and put the fish down on the marver to make sure they are at the same level. Now time for the anal fin. That's a third point on which the fish will sit. A small blob and thin tweezers, just pull with them and you get the shape very closely resembling the actual anal fin of the fish. Top fin is a little bigger, and you can make them ridiculously big. Actually, they look pretty good when they are large. So I'm putting a fairly sizable gather there and flattening it aggressively, and I get a decent size fin. Now I stretch it up, and here I caught it in 2 points instead of a single line, but that's not a problem. So getting rid of the extra point, and there you go. The fish is done. Of course it's still puntied and there is no easy way to remove it from the punty, so I let it cool down, and now I can heat the punty, not the fin, the punty. It's okay if the punty breaks, but it's not okay if the fin breaks. So I heat the punty, I detach the fish from it, and then I correct the end of the fin to my liking.